community-based legal empowerment and protection against GBV. And so this morning with BONELA Programs Coordinator Katlego Sechele, we discuss how community-based legal empowerment initiatives like this project can strengthen Botswana's fight against GBV and, of course, ensure survivors receive justice and protection. Katlego, welcome to the Daybreak.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to be here to be discussing this prevalent issue. But also I'd like to note that today we are launching the project Empowering Voices in Oasis Hotel. That is a project that is funded by the Embassy of Finland, technically and financially, but is driven by BONELA, the Botswana Network on Ethics, Law and HIV and AIDS, and BOCONGO, the Botswana Council of NGOs in Botswana, to ensure that through this project we capacitate women and girls and the whole community on gender-based violence, and to ensure that we give them access to legal services, be it litigation, psychosocial support, linkage to services, to ensure that we capacitate them with legal literacy and human rights education. This is when they can be able to identify that they're being violated, or to identify other human rights violations that they can refer to us for redress. But also through this project, we want to unite communities, ensure that we deal with GBV from a grassroots perspective and from a multi-sectoral approach, including communities, including government, because there's nothing that we cannot do without political will, as civil society as well, to ensure that we include our dikhosi or our national leadership as well, to ensure that we include survivors of gender-based violence. They can let us know what kind of interventions that they need from a survivor point of view, to also train service providers, your law enforcement officers, to train your healthcare providers, social workers, to provide services from a survivor-centered approach, and also with a human rights-based approach to programming, to ensure that GBV is being decreased or it's being cancelled altogether. Because as we can see, the statistics that are coming up on a daily basis, some of them we can identify them from social media, that shows that we need an urgent intervention. So it coincides with the launch of our campaign as civil society and other partners today to ensure that we declare gender-based violence as everybody's concern. So today we're going to launch that, and we have invited different people from multiple sectors, private sector, from government, embassies, the media, and communities. So there is a collective response. And this project is running for 15 months, and it's going to be running all throughout Botswana. So I'm very excited to be part of this.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that detailed introduction of the program itself. Now, let's talk about the current situation right now of gender-based violence in Botswana. What are we seeing? What is your organization seeing? So that you seem to be one of the organizations at the forefront in fighting against GBV. What is it that you're realizing in the process?
Okay, when we look at the statistics, the relationship survey that was done in 2018, it shows that about like 37% of women have reported cases of gender-based violence. But there are other reports that we have seen by the police being documented throughout the entire year that shows that these numbers have escalated. We have anecdotal data of GBV cases that have come to us, either seeking to be referred to law enforcement, issues where cases are delayed, issues where cases are swept aside for people to go and talk behind the scenes, either couples, IPV, married people, issues where perpetrators are scared to report in the fear that they would lose a breadwinner, or they would lose the economic economic power that the breadwinner has in the home, issues where children have been defiled and nobody in the home is saying anything because culturally we're trying to sweep it under the carpet and ensure that there's peace in the home. So as BONELA, we've been having our GBV program that we have been linking women for redress to ensure that they access all services that they need, from legal services, healthcare services, and law enforcement as well. So with this project, we also want to be able to ensure that no one is left behind, because oftentimes we speak about survivor-centered approaches, but we also want to hear, as we're dealing with our traditional leaders, what is happening with the perpetrator, with the boy child who is defined as the perpetrator through statistics and anecdotal data, just to hear how we can assist and hear where the problem is coming from, what the root cause is, because we have found all this data pertaining to reports that have been done. But what are the issues, and how can we approach this all together, and how can you form a multi-sectoral approach to ensure that even our legal environment is favorable when people are reporting as well.
All right. If we can also get a further background on that, what could we say has been happening over the years? In the past a few years, we've been having Botswana top in the charts when it comes to sexual violence cases across, globally, and Botswana has been there at the top. So what are we seeing as time goes on? Because it seems we have been really trying so hard and coming up with efforts to fight against GBV. Are things getting better, or are we still really having our statistics showing that GBV cases have been growing in Botswana? What are those things that you've seen?
Yes, statistics show that GBV cases are escalating, especially like you're saying, sexual violence. I remember that the police have been updating it as time goes on. Is it quarterly or monthly? And then what we also realized is that when you look at our policy and legal environment as well, we have beautiful legislation that is the Children's Act of 2009 that protects children from all sorts of violence, including sexual violence. We also have the Domestic Act. We also have the Penal Code. But what we're also seeing is that there is little or no enforcement of these laws, especially in rural and peri-urban areas where, like I've said, cultural diversities tend and nuances tend to influence people when they're reporting, as well as policies that are legal documents that are not in harmony, right? Right now, when somebody's charged with assault and they go to the police station and they're charged with assault, and then it just ends there and they pay the fine and then they go home and re-abuse that person as well. Looking at the fact that especially in an environment where the perpetrator is dependent on the survivor is dependent on the perpetrator. This tends to hinder them from reporting and also exacerbate stigma and discrimination. So what we have seen is that we need to ensure that we have stringent laws, advocate for more stringent laws, advocate for scaling up of safe spaces, because we've seen in a recent case that was trending on social media where we advocated as civil society, even as government, to say a perpetrator should be taken to task. But the survivor was saying that I do not want the perpetrator to be taken to task. I want them to be at home for whatever reason. Maybe we might perceive that maybe it's the breadwinner, or maybe they're economically inbound to them. But we have seen that we need to upscale safe spaces as well to ensure that women can be able to go to safe spaces and children, and they're protected from perpetrators, and they have a choice to make an informed choice to report and not depend on the perpetrators. So I think those are some of the things to strengthen the legal and policy environment, advocate for upscale of safe spaces, and ensure that we declare GBV everybody's concern, so that if somebody sees it happening, is according to the Children's Act, especially to children, they're obliged to report.
All right, of course. Now, one of the cases that you have mentioned, or one of the legislative instruments that you've mentioned, Domestic Violence Act of 2008. One of the gaps that have been mentioned about it has been how it might not specifically address issues of sexual violence in a marriage setup. So, such instances, how do we plan to advocate for survivors? Legal reform advocacy there on behalf of survivors, including those in marriages. So, how are we going to be approaching such?
Yes, it was one of the resolutions that was done made in the legal environment assessment, and as BONELA, we have been getting data to ensure that we can have maybe policy briefs, meet up with Parliament to be able to lobby for the change of this law or for the amendment, because as you are saying, it perpetuates violence, especially against the spouse. So I think that is something that has been nuanced also by culture. And it's something that we also need to work on and speak against. And through this project, we're going to be able to ensure that as we engage legislative reforms, as we engage parliamentarians, as we engage the Khosi, we're able to get that data and be able to inform them and see how we can be able to change the legal environment as well. But it's been a concern for a really long time.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. And maybe we can also speak to addressing issues of community stigmatization, or however the community views the issues of reporting, and also reporting barriers. There's community involved there, law enforcement agencies also involved there. How do we plan to approach these gaps or these questions that have always been there, to say when I go to report I get laughed at or the community laughs at me?
Yeah.
So how are we going to coin such issues and make sure we really go towards zero violence?
Yes, that is also coupled with infrastructure in different police stations.
Right.
You realize that when people go and report their cases, sometimes it's an open space. Sometimes they meet an officer who's not trained to be responding to GBV. And sometimes they're stigmatized because that particular person who's assisting them is speaking to people about their case. That is why that's where we bring in the human rights aspect of it, to ensure that we capacitate law enforcement on how to handle GBV cases from a survivor point of view. When a whole force is trained on human rights and how to respond to these cases, we will see limited stigma and discrimination. Because as for now, we have different police officers who are assigned to do that work. And other police officers, if you find them in the police station, they'll tell you issues like, can you wait for that police officer, or they'll make a laughing stock or spread your issue, and there'll be stigma and discrimination. So if we're able to train the whole legal enforcement, train social workers, train healthcare providers to be able to be human rights centered in all the approaches, I think this would be something that can solve the issue. Train them on issues of confidentiality, train them on issues of the oath that they took to be able to protect children and to be able to protect women and the public at large. And also something that we have been doing also is resuscitating child protection committees, because these are committees that are able to ensure that if there's a case that has been reported towards a child, it's been taken through all the steps it needs to be taken through until it is done or it is closed. And in some districts, especially in rural areas, you find that they have been disintegrated. So if they're in place, then we're able to ensure that children's cases are reported, they go through the right channels, people identify them, whistleblowers can be able to whistleblow and be protected in that manner as well. So it's something that this project is also going to address. So yeah, it's something that we're looking forward to doing in the next 15 months.
Of course.
Yes.
And maybe because you keep on mentioning a survivor-centered approach, what are those mechanisms that you're going to have in place to make sure that survivors, the way they view this whole thing, that they are brought on board, and that the laws, the policies, everything that you're going to be doing is informed by them and how they perceive this? Because so whatever I feel whilst I'm going through this might not be what you see.
Exactly.
You might not understand it the way I do. So what are those mechanisms that you're going to have in place to make sure that fully involved, and as we inform policies, we really know what we're doing?
Yes, that is where our community engagement comes in, because as you are saying, nobody knows the issue than the person that it is happening to. We may sit here and talk about it, but the person who is experiencing it knows how it feels like and knows when they want to report and want to get redress. So I think through them knowing, through them receiving human rights literacy, legal literacy, to know that I am being violated, I can be able to report in this manner, I can be protected by BONELA or BOCONGO or BGBVC. I can be able to speak out and they can escort me to the police so that my children can be protected and taken away from this place. Sometimes people respond from a place of no knowledge of the law or no knowledge of protection systems that are there to protect them. So the more they're informed, the more they can protect themselves, inform others, and ensure that it's a collective response as a community that we end GBV, especially from a survivor-based perspective. And also psychosocial support, because most of these issues span from the mind. The mind is the person's worst prisoner. You know that I can't get help. This is the person that I can only depend on. But if you see options, as we'll be talking to them, providing counseling for them, linking them for psychosocial support and mental health, then maybe we can get to a point where they can say, I've identified that I'm being violated. Can you please assist in this manner? Can you help my children? Can you help me? So that we can be able to get the issues and assist them how they need to be assisted from a human rights perspective and also from a survivor point of view.
All right. Of course. Now we're coming to the end of our discussion. We've said a lot in terms of norms, but I'd like to hear it from you, the gender norms that you wish to challenge with this initiative. And really, let's talk even post-initiative. This has been my last question to you. Post this particular project, what is it that we hope to achieve and the sustainability part of it post the project?
Okay. Harmful cultural norms that are there, that have always been there, your patriarchy issues, harmful cultural norms that are there, your gender inequality issues, cultural beliefs that are currently noted as drivers of GBV, alcohol abuse, lack of conflict resolution skills, as Botswana, that stem from cultural practices as well, to say mosadi o bipa dikgang tsa gagwe, o sireletsa lelapa la gagwe, and all those issues that we've been knowing in norms as young people being brought up and as a society in Botswana. It's time to unlearn this gender inequalities. It's time to know that you can be able to take charge of your life and be able to spot that you're being abused and being taken advantage of, and do something about it. And then the sustainability part of it, we're going to be training also paralegals that are stationed in different districts. This is through our community-led monitoring initiative to ensure that the communities that we train are within that community, and in our absence they can be able to do the work that we do, link cases, escort communities to report cases, impart knowledge within them, and support human rights violations, protect the child protection committees, ensure that everything that district is running smoothly, even without BONELA or even without BOCONGO, but with little or no support from us, we're able to ensure that there's continuity of the program in those different districts.
All right. Well, let me thank you so much, Katlego, for your time this morning. We're looking forward to seeing the project being rolled out and it really impacting our communities and us seeing change when it comes to GBV. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say last words to say that GBV is everybody's crisis. It might not be happening to you, it might be happening to your neighbor. Don't turn a blind eye. And also, as a collective, if we have government with us, if we have partners with us, the community, our traditional leaders, we can see the root causes, especially by being relatable to the survivors so that they can speak out. By protecting our children and our women, we can protect the future for tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Katlego Sechele, BONELA Programs Coordinator. Of course, we're speaking ending the scourge of gender-based violence. And you and I can really have a hand in that.
We made it clear that we are a human rights-based government.